Welcome into the Commanders Report live show. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Today we got a bunch of great Commanders content coming your way for about the next hour or so, and I can't wait to talk about some Commanders football with you guys here on a beautiful Wednesday evening. Before we get into all the content that we have for you guys today, shout out your city down there in the comments section and let us know where you're watching the show from. We'll give some shout outs here in just a moment before we let you guys know what we have on tap for you guys here on today's edition of the Commanders Report live show. With that, let's bring on our producer today, Mr. Joey Petersen. Joey P. It's been a while since we've been live on this channel, since before the NFL draft, and now we have a new slate of Commanders players here with the Burgundy and Gold. What'd you think?
Got some brand new players. You know, I really love that second-round selection with Trey Amos.
Me too.
I thought Josh Connolly Jr., good pick. It's always hard to get jacked up about offensive linemen. One of my buddies says it's like getting socks for Christmas, you know. They're not exciting, but you need them, and they're very useful.
You need them. You know?
And so,
definitely need them.
Yeah, and so obviously I think it was the right decision. It was really cool. I don't know if you saw the video on social media of what Cliff Kingsbury put on Adam Peters' desk of like take Josh Connolly Jr. no matter what. And so a little bit of play on draft day there. But no, I thought for the picks that you had, you got what you needed, got some pretty good value there in the second.
Except for edge rusher.
Except for edge rusher, that is fair. There's still some targets, though, available.
Yeah, and we'll talk about those today. We got a bunch of stuff coming up later in today's show. We'll talk about some of the top edge rusher prospects they could still get. I want to give some shout-outs here to the people in the chat. We got Samad. We've got your boy Football Elite. Jasmine Gray is here. Hello, Jasmine. My beautiful girlfriend Cassie Voth is here. Everyone say hi to Cassie. We got Samuel. We got Hockey Dad. We got Mr. Leon. We've got Richard. We've got Roland coming to us from Roland, Tyler, Texas. We got Jasmine from Fort Washington, Maryland. Richard's from Belleville, New Jersey. Brian's coming to us from Pennsylvania. John is coming to us from Florida. Joey, you'll be in Florida this weekend.
I will. I will be in Panama City Beach in about 30 hours from now.
Panama City Beach, a nice little trip after the draft, huh?
Dude,
That's perfectly lined up for that bachelor party, huh?
It really was. Be able to sit my butt in a chair, drink some Coronas, have a good time.
Coronas or pina coladas?
See, I think since it's a bachelor party, it'd probably be more Coronas. If it was a trip with my wife, it'd probably be a little more pina coladas.
That's a fair enough point. We got Walter from Hagerstown, Maryland. We got Lucho from Bordeaux, France. We got someone from France in here, Joey. We got T-Rose. We weave. Very nice. Washington, D.C. Jesse's from Maryland. We got Eugene from Richard. What's up, Eugene? Good to see you. We got Michael from Mobile, Alabama. We got Jasmine, Latanya from Washington, D.C., and Oscar from Silver Spring, Maryland. So welcome into the show, guys. We got a bunch of stuff on tap for you. First up, we'll go into my grades for some of the top undrafted free agents that the Commanders have brought in. They spent a lot of money compared to some of the other teams in the NFL on undrafted free agents this year, and there's some names that I'm very excited about to talk about with you guys at the top of today's show. Then we'll transition into a video where we're going to be talking about the upcoming 2026 free agents and which of those free agents I would consider extending this offseason, locking them up for the long-term future here in Washington. Then we'll get into some post-draft free agency and trade targets for the Washington Commanders as we approach rookie minicamp and OTAs here in the coming weeks. And then we'll finish up today's show with me answering your questions. Commanders Report Live Mailbag will be our final segment today. And if you have a question about any of the draft picks that the Commanders brought in this year or anything of that like, you guys can send in your questions to #Commanders down there in the live chat, or you guys can super chat today. And if we can get $100 total in super chats, we will stay live an extra 15 minutes on this channel tonight, guys. All right, so if you want that extra 15 minutes with me and Joey to chop it up, talk some Commanders football as a group, we need to get to $100 in super chat. So if you want to do your part, put in a $10 super chat or a $20 super chat, or even a $1 super chat. We greatly appreciate your guys' support. And everyone that super chats automatically gets their question on the mailbag. All right, so let's get to $100 today. We would greatly, greatly appreciate it, guys. But before we get into our first segment, make sure you click that thumbs up icon. We got over 130 people watching right now, just 23 likes. I mean, come on now. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know clicking that thumbs up icon here on the live show is the best way to help get more Commanders fans in the group here. So make sure you click that thumbs up icon and let us know down there in the comment section. Joey's going to give some shout outs here to the people spamming me, and we have to hit 40 likes before we get into our first live segment today. Joey, take it away.
What's going on, everybody? LaTanya has liked the video. Oscar sends a thumbs up. I'm assuming that's his version of me. Oscar, thank you for liking the video. Up to 37 likes. Let's push that to 50.
Come on,
How about
come on.
Rob
Let's get to 50.
Music. Rob Makes Music's liked it. Jesse's liked it. Corey's liked it. JG says next year's second is already gone, I believe, in the Tunsil trade. No, that was Tunsil trade was next year's second?
Let me just double check here.
Richard has liked it. Richard Barker says me. Jasmine says me. Lucho says me. Eugene says me. Guys, we need one more like to get to 50.
Yeah, second round pick next year is gone with Tunsil. With Tunsil, correct. So obviously, so that do we have?
I'll check.
Yeah, if it's just turn it into a third. Yeah, just do that for me real quick.
Perfect.
All right, man. So we're going to get into our first live segment here. Without further ado, I'm really excited about this, guys. We got a bunch of really fun segments to get to today, as well as your questions. So don't forget, #Commanders or Super Chat to get your questions on the Commanders Report mailbag coming up later today. But I'm not going to make you guys wait any longer. We're getting into our first segment right now, which is my UDFA grades for the Washington Commanders here. They have signed 10 players after the NFL draft this year. So meet your new Commanders players right here on the Commanders Report. The Washington Commanders have signed 10 UDFAs, that's undrafted free agents, after the conclusion of the 2025 NFL Draft. And today on the Commanders Report, we are going to be grading all 10 of those signings, and we'll also let you guys know the other players that the Commanders have invited to their rookie minicamp, slated to be in just a few short days. But before we get into it today, guys, today's the last day to take the NFC East in our NFC East sub-battle for the month of April. We have added over 1,000 subscribers just this month alone, but the other channels here at Chat Sports in the division have also had very good months. The Cowboys Report is beating us here by just a few subscribers. Eagles Now is currently leading the NFC East for the month of April with over 1,000 as well, with just 8 more than us right now. But then Giants Now is in last place with 1,065. So new viewers, we are counting on you guys right now to click that subscribe button, all right? And here's the deal that I'll make with you guys. Click that subscribe button here. Try out our content for a week. If you don't enjoy our in-depth, free Commanders coverage on this channel, you guys can just click that unsubscribe button. But hey, now is the moment of truth. We got to win the division. We're only 8 behind the leader right now. Let's take this thing home. Click that subscribe button so we can win the month of April. Okay, now let's get into the UDFA grades, and we'll go from my lowest grades to the highest grades. And listen, guys, it's a UDFA, all right? I'm not going to give it an F, all right? A C is usually as low as I'm going to go on a UDFA, and Ricky Barber, probably has an uphill battle, let's put it that way, to make the final roster, in my opinion, at the defensive tackle position. Same thing goes with the safety, Trey Rucker, out of Oklahoma State. Now, the safety room is a little bit less dense here in Washington than maybe the defensive tackle room is, so maybe Rucker has a slightly better chance, but overall, I don't really expect him to make a whole lot of noise during the offseason program. Jacoby Jones out of UCF, a wide receiver. Similarly, I'm not really expecting him to make the final roster or compete for a starting job or even a rotational job at that. Then we can get to some of my higher grades here. We'll go with Ale Kahu. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation right there. But inside linebacker out of UCLA. And he does bring some good athleticism to the table. Really fast for a linebacker, but he is undersized at 231 pounds. But the relative athletic score is above a 7.3, which is a pretty darn good number there. But this is another inside linebacker that the Washington Commanders went out and got this year. Kane Medrano, 6th-round pick out of UCLA for the Commanders, is even better than Kahu is at the athletic testing. He's also severely undersized at 222 pounds, so he's even lighter than Kahu is, but he's even faster at 4.46 as an inside linebacker. He's going to be somebody that the Commanders are really going to be honing in on and trying to develop in the years to come. So I think that that's probably going to hold Ale Kahu back because he's the UDFA and Medrano was the draft pick. Then we get to Cam Arnold, inside linebacker, another linebacker here, this time out of Boston College. And another reason why I have Kahu down at a B- is because Arnold is another undersized linebacker that tested even better than Kahu did. And Arnold is somebody that had a 9.31 relative athletic score. That is absolutely fantastic. He's got really good change of direction ability, and really explosive athlete here to pair with that 4.56 speed, which is absolutely elite for an inside linebacker. So I'll give him a B grade here. Then we move on to Carlin Vigors, cornerback out of Louisiana Monroe. I'm going to give him a B+ because I do like some of the physical attributes that he brings to the table. He's got long arms. He's got a good physical profile, and I think that he fits what the Commanders are looking for from the cornerback position. Now, obviously, the speed isn't phenomenal, but he brings great size to the table and explosiveness. The acceleration isn't great, and then the long speed suffers because of that. Had a 4.52. I mean, goodness gracious. Kane Medrano ran faster than this guy, and he is a cornerback, but I do think his physical style of play and those 32 3/4-inch arms is definitely some tools in his tool belt that he's going to be able to use here to maybe compete for positioning on this roster this offseason. Then we get to the player that the Commanders spent a ton of money on here on the offensive line, Tim McKay from NC State. I'm going to give this one an A-. Tom Pelissero reported this right after the NFL draft on Saturday. Former NC State offensive lineman Tim McKay, who was projected as a mid-round pick before tearing his pec at his pro day, is signing with the Commanders on a deal that includes $275,000 guaranteed per his agents. So this is somebody that tore his pec at his pro day. He's not going to be ready to go for the start of the season. But he is somebody that's going to be able to come in when he gets healthy and compete, all right? And this is definitely an offensive line that needs players that can play. And the fact that this guy was expected to go in the middle rounds before that injury ends up going undrafted, I mean, you're pretty much getting a mid-round level player here that's not going to be ready to play right away. He's going to be rehabbing. But when he gets back, you're pretty much adding an additional mid-round pick to your arsenal here without having to give up any draft capital to do so. So I really like this pickup from Adam Peters, the Commanders GM. And, hey, they had to pay a little bit more to get him, but it's $275,000. That's nothing for these NFL franchises. Then you get to somebody that I'm really excited to see this offseason, and Robert McDaniel, the defensive back out of Jackson State. And, this guy's an athletic freak, man. Extremely explosive. His tape, he is just an absolute heat-seeking missile. He plays at nickel cornerback. He can play safety. He can even play a little bit of edge, where he's an excellent blitzer from the slot, or even lined up at the edge, where he did a little bit of edge rusher work on pass-happy downs at Jackson State. EJ Snyder is the host of a Bootleg Football podcast along with Brett Coleman here on YouTube. You guys should check out their channel if you haven't already. They do some excellent stuff, and EJ is a smart NFL guy, and this is what he had to say about his evaluation of Robert McDaniel. Is one of the most interesting players in this entire draft. 6'2", 211 pounds, and they lined him up everywhere. 338 slot reps, 123 outside cornerback, and 143 reps as an edge rusher. takes great angles in the run game, blitzes like a maniac, hits like a truck. So cool. And this is somebody that I think has a shot to prove himself at a lot of different positions. Slot cornerback, I think that they might try him at outside a little bit. I think they will try him out maybe at linebacker, type of edge rusher type of positioning. And then they might even try him at strong safety where he's got the size to be able to compete for that job. And usually this defense requires like a true box safety on early downs. Maybe they let McDaniel really try out for that position because he is a good run defender. He is very smart in terms of his run defense, and he does get after quarterbacks. So if you want to do like a safety blitz with McDaniel, you could absolutely do that. So this is a very fun player. They can move all around the formation, and because of that versatility, I think he has a pretty darn good chance of making the final 53-man roster. Then we get to Fentrell Cypress, cornerback out of Florida State. Of course, Lazarie Thomas went to the New York Jets, I believe, on day 2, his teammate there at Florida State. But they run a lot of man coverage there, and Cypress was pretty darn good running that style of coverage. He's got long arms for a corner. He's obviously very, very fast at that 4.43 speed. That's certainly good enough for a starting NFL corner. He's got really oily hips. He can turn those hips with ease and run down the field if it's a vertical route, so you're not going to beat him over the top. I will say his foot speed and change of direction ability isn't phenomenal, but it is, I think, good enough, and he is severely undersized, so he's going to have to get a little bit bigger, continue to put on poundage here throughout his NFL career, but he's got some nice tools at his disposal here that is going to allow him to compete this offseason with the Washington Commanders to find potentially a roster spot for him in the future. Then my only A-plus grade for the Commanders UDFA class this year is Ja'Cory Brooks, wide receiver out of Louisville. Now, if you don't know anything about me, obviously we weren't talking much quarterback talk here on the Commanders Report during the draft season, but if you know anything about my work here at Chat Sports, you know that I was a big Tyler Shough supporter, all right? I had a late round 1, early round 2 grade, and of course he ends up going top 40 to the New Orleans Saints. But when you watch Tyler Shough's film, Ja'Cory Brooks is the wide receiver that pops up the most. And he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can make some crazy catches, guys. Fantastic body control and downfield ability to track the football. He's really, really good at tracking the football in the air, down the field, and then going up and making some really ridiculous catches. I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to do this offseason for the Washington Commanders. And, you know, he had options, and he decided to come to Washington. So that certainly bodes well in terms of for him, you know, thinking that he might even have a chance to compete for a roster spot here in Washington and, you know, potentially be somebody that develops a connection with Jayden Daniels in the years to come. So he's a former Alabama commit. He transferred to Louisville. He was their number 1 receiver last year by far. I'm excited to see Ja'Cory Brooks play for the Washington Commanders during the preseason this year. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comment section which UDFA has the best chance to make the roster this year. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And before we talk about some of the rookie minicamp invites that the Commanders have invited to camp this year, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can get a brand new Jayden Daniels jersey in your collection today when you go to chatsports.com/Daniels. Also, you get to help out the channel if you make a purchase today when you use our link that we'll put in the comments and description of today's show. Again, that's chatsports.com/Daniels. And if you click that link and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds here at the Commanders Report. So if you want to help us out and you want to help yourself out, I mean, let's face it, guys, Jayden Daniels is going to be here for over a decade as this team's franchise quarterback. You might as well make the investment in his jersey because he's going to be an all-time great for this organization. It's a great investment in terms of a Commanders jersey, and you can help out the channel in the process. So go to chatsports.com/Daniels. Really do appreciate your guys' support. And with that, let's get into the rookie minicamp invite list here, guys, because Commanders have been obviously busy putting in all these, signing all of these UDFAs to their 90-man roster. There's actually not that many that are just pure rookie minicamp invites, but they did invite Sean Taylor's brother, Gabe Taylor. Talked about it on the channel earlier this week, and, he played strong safety at Rice, but he's severely undersized for a strong safety, so he's going to have to convert either to nickel corner or to free safety in the league. So that'll be an adventure here. You got Colin Schlee, quarterback out of Virginia Tech, Keegan Jones, running back out of UC UCLA, Maurice Smith, Cyprus's teammate there with the Florida State Seminoles at offensive line, and then Joseph Carter as another offensive lineman that is getting a camp invite. All right, that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's program. We will see you guys next time, and until then, go raise some hell. All right, first segment in the books here, Mr. Joey. We got another one coming up here momentarily, and I believe it's the 2026 free agents and extension candidates. So is there any UDFAs that stand out to you this year with the Washington Commanders, Joey?
No, I think that Ja'Cory Brooks is a really interesting player. Man, anytime that somebody's able to be something so special for a really good quarterback, but outside of Tyler Shuck and Ja'Cory Brooks, Louisville's offense was a little bit limited, and he was still able to have phenomenal production. And it's also really cool to see, undrafted free agents of his caliber who are somewhat sought out by teams. Obviously, they weren't draft picks, but it's cool to see a guy like that want to come to Washington, most likely to play for a guy like Jaden Daniels.
100%, man. And then, we look forward to next year with the free agents that are coming out. Which ones are going to be extension candidates? I think there's a couple players on this roster that you need to keep your eye out for to get extensions this next year. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment. But first, if you want to get on the mailbag, we'll be coming up here in just a moment. Use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get on today's Q&A. If we can get to $100 total today in Super Chats, we'll stay live for an extra 15 minutes where Joey and I will talk about whatever topics you want surrounding the Washington Commanders. So if we can get to $100 total today, that'd be great. If not, it's no big deal. But if you want to guarantee that your question gets on the mailbag today and you want to help us get to $100 total, get that super chat in there, and we greatly appreciate any dollars that you guys send in to the channel this afternoon. With that, let's get into our second segment here, Joey. 2026 free agents and extension candidates for the Washington Commanders are coming at you guys right now. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we're going to take a look forward here to the 2026 offseason, talk about some of the free agents that the Commanders have coming up towards this next offseason, and then also talk about which of those free agents the Washington Commanders should look to extend this offseason to lock them up for the long-term future. We're going to talk about this today, guys. You might be sitting at home saying, Jack, why are we talking about 2026 free agents? Well, sometimes this affects the way that the team builds the roster this offseason because they have to look ahead to the roster openings they're going to have in future seasons. So I think it's important for us to understand that. So that's why we're going to be talking about 2026 free agents and extension candidates here for the Washington Commanders. But before we get into it, we really do appreciate all of your guys' support, guys. And if you want to send in a super thanks to kind of quote unquote tip us, me and Joey, for all the hard work that we put in for you guys here at the Commanders Report, we would greatly appreciate it. Of course, we provide these videos for you guys 100% free, and by no means are we demanding that you guys put in any money or donate any money to the channel. But if you do appreciate the work that we put in, every single dollar goes towards making this channel better. It goes towards getting new equipment. It goes towards keeping the lights on. It goes towards improving our graphics set. So if you guys want to click the thanks button, it's the logo that looks like this. It is the heart with the dollar sign in the middle, and you guys appreciate the coverage that we give to you guys every day. We greatly appreciate all of your guys' support, but again, it's definitely not required. Okay, now, just so you guys know, there are more 2026 free agents on this Commanders roster here in 2025 that won't be listed today, but I wanted to list the ones that were more notable and the ones that are going to be the ones that the Commanders need to put a focus on replacing in the 2026 offseason moving forward. So you take a look at the free agents this year for the Washington Commanders or heading into next year. So these are all the players that have roles, starting roles or rotational roles on the roster that are going to be free agents next offseason. So Terry McLaurin, your number one receiver, Deebo Samuel, who you traded for this offseason and arguably your number two wide receiver as it stands today. Bobby Wagner, the team captain of the defense, great run stuffer and blitzer from the off-ball linebacker alignment. Then you got Zach Ertz, Jaden Daniels is Binky, as I like to call him. These are players that would not be very easy to replace. Matt Gay, who the team team just signed as the team's new kicker, paid him $4.25 million on a one-year deal to replace Zane Gonzalez. Then you got Austin Eckler, who this team paid last offseason. He's probably entering the final year of his NFL career. Same thing with Bobby Wagner. Andrew Wiley, the team restructured his deal to keep him around, but he's just going to have one more year on his current deal before he hits the open market in 2026. Dietrich Wise just signed a one-year contract here to be a rotational piece, potential starter here with the Washington Commanders here in 2025. Noah Brown, a wide receiver who they decided to bring back. He was a free agent this year, signed him back to another one-year deal after showing some good things with the Commanders in a short stint last year. Then Jeremy Reeves, your special teams ace, is going to be a free agent next year as well. Tress Way, who's a little bit of an older punter at this point in his career, but had a really good season last year after a couple of seasons where he was starting to look like he was on the decline. This will be a big year for Tress Way to prove himself as a long-term punter option for this team. Jacob Martin, who this team brought in, had a couple of sacks last year for Chicago. He's going to be a rotational edge rusher. Cleveland Ferrell, another guy that's going to be a part of the rotation here. At edge is also slated to be a free agent. Then you got Sheldon Day, defensive tackle, another person in this rotation that had a really good 2024 campaign that's going to be a free agent in 2026. And then B-Rob, Brian Robinson Jr. as well. So you got both of your starting running backs slated to be free agents next year as well. So listen, man, this team has a lot of aging veterans on it, all right? And obviously this is a team that's trying to win now. You got Jaden Daniels as your starting quarterback on an affordable rookie contract. And the Commanders right now are trying to take advantage of every opportunity that they have while they still have Jaden Daniels under cost control on that rookie contract to try and win as many Super Bowls as they possibly can. All right. And with that, you're going to bring on some, older players. And, I would say that for these three players right here, we're nearing the end of their NFL journeys. Bobby Wagner did sign another one-year deal, and I would expect him to just sign one-year deals with the Commanders until he's ready to hang them up. Is this his last year? Maybe. I think if they win a Super Bowl, it's almost for sure. But like if they make another NFC Championship game, could we see him come back for another season? I think it's possible, but we'll have to see on that. Zach Ertz, tight end as well, another guy that's definitely nearing the end of his career. We'll see how long he wants to play. And then Austin Eckler, I think, is another guy that's probably entering the final year of his NFL journey, if not at least the last 2 or 3 years, if he does decide to stick around. But I just hope that the Washington Commanders and their replacement plans for these positions end up working out. Whether it's the plan is to bring in new veterans in free agency in future seasons, whether that's to draft somebody new in future seasons in the early rounds, or whether it's to go with kind of the top options that are currently on the roster, like someone like Jordan McGee, who they drafted out of Temple last year. He spent last year really learning and developing behind Bobby Wagner and, of course, Frankie Louvu. This year, he's expected to take on a little bit of a larger role in the rotation. And maybe by the end of this year, he's ready to take on a full-time starting role. Ben Sinnott, tight end out of Kansas State, is another guy that this team drafted relatively early, and he didn't really play a whole lot last year. So will we see him get an increased role this year in preparation for him to be the full-time starter? That still remains to be seen. Then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who this team drafted in the 7th round this year, but was an absolute steal in my opinion. He was the MVP, the offensive MVP of the Shrine Bowl this year, which I attended, and he looked absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he was great. He's a little bit undersized, but man, he is fast and explosive, and he's got really quick feet, and I'm really excited to see what he can do this year, potentially as a number 3 running back behind Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler here in Washington. Now, I think that only 2 players on this team this year get extensions. So talking about all those free agents that we talked about, I think there's just 2 that the Commanders will seriously think about giving extensions to. All right, and Jeremy Reeves is one where I think if they're going to extend him, it's going to be very, very affordable. That's one of those deals where Reeves just really wants to stay with this organization, and as a special teams ace, he signs a contract at a super low value, super team friendly to lock him up long term. But the big expenditure this offseason, guys, I expect to be Scary Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver, and this is something that we have been waiting on this entire season and this entire offseason for to this point. Terry's extension is going to come at some point this offseason. I'm pretty much sure of that, and it's going to be sizable whenever it comes. Now, the question is, how sizable is that contract extension going to be? Because you take a look at the highest paid wide receivers on a per year basis in the National Football League right now on their current contracts. Jamar Chase, it currently tops the market at $40.25, man. That's over $5 million more per season than any other receiver in the game, all right? So Justin Jefferson sitting at 35, CeeDee Lamb sitting at 34, DK Metcalf got paid this offseason at a $33 million per season mark. A.J. Brown and, of course, Amon-Ra St. Brown are making a lot of money. Brandon Ayuk's making a lot of money. Tyreek Hill's making a lot of money. So for me, guys, I think Terry is going to want to make at least $30 million per season, all right? Like that puts him in the top 10. That puts him in the same category as Tyreek Hill and some of the other top wide receivers in the game. And if I would have to expect what this contract's going to look like, I would expect it to be at least 3 years, $30 million per season, and it could get all the way up to like $33 million per season, in my opinion, guys, because Terry is a really, really good player. You can even make an argument that he is around the same area as a guy like DK Metcalf in terms of where he ranks among NFL wide receivers. He's a legit number one, a legit alpha. He does everything for you that you want on an NFL football field, whether it's route running, whether it's being a vertical threat, whether it's making tough catches, whether it's yards after the catch, whatever you want Terry McLaurin to do, he has proven to be able to do that. And, he's a do-it-all type of alpha receiver, and you pay guys like that even if they're getting close to 30 years old. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Terry's currently 29, but he'll be 30 during the season. So is paying a 30-year-old Terry McLaurin worth $30 million per season in your eyes? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For me personally, I think he's absolutely worth that kind of money. He's an awesome receiver. He's got a great connection with Jaden Daniels. If you really want to commit to winning Super Bowls during the early portion of Jaden Daniels' career while he's on that rookie contract, you lock up Terry McLaurin for one more big contract. All right, guys, that'll be it for today's edition of the Commander's Report. A little bit of a reminder here, guys, that on any of our videos, if you feel like you got enough value from it, that you feel like you want to tip me and Joey, our producer here, you guys can send in a super thanks, which again, it's that money symbol with the heart around it. Down below this video, you can send in any dollar amount. We really do appreciate anything that you guys send to our channel, so thank you guys so much in advance for helping us out. That'll be it for today's edition of the Commander's Report. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate you guys stopping by and making it to the end of today's show. Until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders. Second cut in the books here, Joey. I'm guessing you are definitely in favor of getting Terry McLaurin that extension as well?
I am so in favor of it. I mean, you just think about what he's meant to this team, what he's meant to this franchise. He's been here, he's been the only bright light through a lot of the dark past couple of years. And so it was obvious that him and Jaden Daniels had a connection too. I think that's always a big thing. I think back to 2016. Obviously, not to the Commanders. I think back to the Cowboys when they made the move from Tony Romo to Dak Prescott. Mm-hmm. Everybody wondered, how was Dak going to have a connection with Dez Bryant? He didn't really have that good of a connection. Obviously, They moved on from Dez Bryant. That was the right move for them to make. And so you kind of ask that same question here with Washington, with Terry McLaurin. Can you move from whatever quarterback Terry was playing with before, although 100 of them before Jaden Daniels, is he going to be able to do that same production with him? Are they going to have that connection? They did, and now that's got to be the plan moving forward.
Yeah, and what I love about Terry is whatever role you need him to play, he can play it. He's inside, outside, versatile. He's a great downfield threat. He's got great hands. He's great after the catch. He's athletic. He's definitely big enough. He's maybe not like DK Metcalf big, but he's definitely big enough to be an X. He's got everything that you want. And, even though he's 30 years old, he proved last year that he's still playing at a high level. And, right now the going rate for receivers, top of the market's $40 million. If you're getting Terry McLaurin for even $33 million per season, you could even make an argument it's a bargain at that point. And if he's asking for 30, I'm signing that contract right now. Now, here's a tough question for you, Joey. If he asks for 35, if he asks for Justin Jefferson money, is that a number where you're starting to be like, all right, we're not paying that?
I hate to say yes to that, but that's kind of where I lean. $35 million is a lot.
It's a lot.
And he's done a lot for this franchise, and he's been phenomenal,
and he's stuck it out through some very tough times.
Very tough times. Very admirable. But at the same time,
you got a team to run, man. You got other players you got to pay.
And Justin Jefferson's what, 26 years old? 25 years? Like, he's young. It's totally different paying that to a guy who's about to be 30 than it is a young guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the number that I would be up to willing to pay is like 33.5, somewhere in that range, somewhere around the DK Metcalf range, where 33.5, he makes more than DK per season, so he gets to have that title to move up the ranks, but it's not Justin Jefferson money, right? So I think that'd probably be my bar that I'd be willing to set for Terry McLaurin, but obviously we want him back, and obviously we want him back for the long term here. While Jaden Daniels is on that rookie contract, and you just want to make sure you have that number one receiver locked up during that time period. And I think Terry, even at 32, 33 years old, towards the end of this next contract, he's going to be more than capable of playing at the high level that we all know and have come to expect from him in years past. So coming up here, guys, post-draft free agency and trade targets, players that are still available for Adam Peters to target here that I think would be good additions to the Commanders roster here in 2025. Again, this is our final segment before the mailbag. How many questions do we have, Joey? Can we get an update on the questions?
So I just had to do a little bit of a reboot of the software. We only have one as of right now.
Okay, so
we didn't have a ton that we missed. But if you asked one earlier, I think I saw two get asked earlier. Just re-ask it again in the comment section down below.
If you didn't hear Joey, if you put in a question at the beginning of today's show, put it back in there, all right? We had to reboot our software here, so make sure you put it in there again. If you got a question, don't be shy. We got plenty of openings for you to get your question on the mailbag today. Hashtag Commanders is the key word in the chat. If you don't use hashtag Commanders, Joey can't see your question. So in order for Joey to see it, make sure you put hashtag Commanders along with your question in the live chat, and we'll make sure to get to your question once we finish up our final segment here, our normal segment here. Post-draft free agency and trade targets for your Washington Commanders is coming at you guys right now. Now that the 2025 NFL Draft has come and gone for the Washington Commanders, what other positions could they still address before the start of the 2025 season? And which players are still available on the free agency and trade markets for them to possibly pursue? Today on the Commanders Report, we'll be talking about just that, talking about some of the top targets, both in free agency and the trade market for your Washington Commanders after the NFL Draft. Before we get into all the content today and talk about all the players that the Commanders could still go add to this roster for 2025, let me know down there in the comments section and get us started. Grade Adam Peters' offseason to this point. Simply give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. Let me know what you guys think so far about the Commanders offseason. And with that, let's get into it. So we'll start with the remaining holes on the Steelers roster. Edge rusher, strong safety, wide receiver, and linebacker depth. Now, I think that wide receiver and linebacker, you can take it or leave it. But you could certainly see why you could want some help at edge rusher and true box safety as an early down contributor at the strong safety position. So before we get into players and before we talk about specifics here, let's talk about what the Washington Commanders have at their disposal in terms of cap resources. They have just over $23.3 million in available cap space for the 2025 campaign, which still ranks in the top half of the league. So they still have plenty of cap space that they could use. And at this point, free agents and even a lot of the trade targets out there, the cap number that you're going to be adding to your team is not going to be all that high. So if the Commanders feel like there's players out there that can help this roster, they can absolutely make the required moves to make that happen. So first, let's start with the position that everyone wants to talk about, which is the edge rusher position for the Washington Commanders, because they didn't address it in the NFL Draft, and they haven't been able to land a star player at this position. They were in on Myles Garrett. They've been in on Trey Hendrickson. They haven't been able to make that deal happen. And right now, a lot of Commanders fans, a lot of people around the National Football League are looking at this group and saying, Dorrance Armstrong is your number one edge rusher, Dietrich Wise, Cleveland Ferrell, Jacob Martin, like these are your top four guys. Like, It wasn't a very good group last year, but with Dante Fowler Jr. leaving for the Dallas Cowboys, you can easily make the argument that this year's edge rusher group is worse than last year's, all right? So, I mean, let's look at some of the targets here. And the people that have asterisks next to their names are the people that are trade targets, the people that you're going to have to trade for. So Trey Hendrickson probably tops most people's list from the Cincinnati Bengals. We'll talk about him specifically here in just a second. But also there's some good free agency options out there. Von Miller, Zadarius Smith, Matthew Judon is out there. A couple other trade players that could potentially be traded. Tyree Wilson from the Raiders, Odafe Owe from the Baltimore Ravens, two guys that have been linked in trade kind of rumors lately, and then some other free agency options, Preston Smith, DeMarcus Walker, John Kaminsky, and Carl Lawson. Lawson in particular because he comes from the Dallas Cowboys. And yes, a Trey Hendrickson trade is still possible, guys, all right? Like just because now the Cincinnati Bengals can't get a draft pick for this year doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still make a deal. And, you know, it seems like the Commanders are not willing to give up a first-round draft pick for him. And because you gave up your second-round pick in the Laramie Tunsil trade, I honestly don't know what we're looking at here in terms of the value that they can provide to the Bengals. Right now, if they're not willing to give up a first-round draft pick for Trey, you're looking at a third-round pick in 2026 and Dorrance Armstrong. If I'm the Bengals, that is not a deal that I want to take. But also, you could think about, you know, if you're the Commanders, I would be okay giving up a first-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. I would. All right, now obviously that would mean at this point that the Commanders would not have a first-round pick in either or a pick in either round 1 or in round 2 in 2026, which obviously is not ideal, but it's not like you're going to have to be using those draft picks on a quarterback, right? So if they're really trying to go all in on players that can help them win now, I could potentially see them upgrade this to a first round pick, but it really doesn't seem like Adam Peters is willing to give up his first 2 draft selections next year in order to land Trey Hendrickson. So some of the other targets that you could look at here, Odafe Owe, I think would be an excellent addition to this team. If you can make the Baltimore Ravens see, okay, yeah, we'll trade him to you. He had 10 sacks last year, man. That could be your Dante Fowler Jr. right there, and I don't think it would cost that much to get an Odafe Owe. Then you have Zadarius Smith, who was pretty productive last year, had, I believe, 9.5 sacks last year, or maybe 9 sacks with the Detroit Lions. When he got traded there last year. Von Miller is still kicking out there, you know, had 6 sacks last year, formerly a number 1 edge rusher in this league and a bona fide superstar. Matthew Judon had a down year last year, but 2 years ago, you know, it was not that long ago, and he was pretty darn good in that season. Then Tyree Wilson is still, you know, the guy that got taken in the top 5 of the NFL draft. He still has that elite physical pedigree that maybe Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. feel like they can get the most out of in a trade. So keep your eye on these 5 edge rusher targets as well as Trey Hendrickson. Let me know, would you accept this trade if you are the Washington Commanders? And I think that, you know, if you're the Commanders and the Bengals would be acceptable to this, I think that this is an absolute slam dunk home run for them. To only give up a 3rd round pick for Trey Hendrickson, I think it would be a no-brainer. Honestly, the harder question might be, would you give up a 1st round pick next year for him? So let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. A for accept or D for decline. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds, and when that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know if you'd pull the trigger on this Trey Hendrickson trade. So now let's talk about some potential options at strong safety for the Washington Commanders, because they did bring in Will Harris, who's kind of a versatile type of defensive back, former corner from the New Orleans Saints. But this defense, led by Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., they like to have a true box safety, a Cam Chancellor type, a Jeremy Chin type, a bigger type of strong safety that plays in the box and is a true kind of run defender, playing close to the line of scrimmage. And they like to have a true free safety. In this defense, at least last year, that was Quan Martin. So I think that Will Harris would be an excellent fit in terms of pass-heavy downs as a split field safety type of player alongside Martin. But I don't know if you ask him to play a true box safety role on early downs that he's going to have a lot of success. So if you want to go get that type of player, there's actually quite a few strong safeties that are still available in free agency. Rayshawn Jenkins, Jordan Whitehead, Julian Blackmon, Quandre Diggs, and Von Bell. All these guys started games just last season. All right, so this is certainly something here where if the Commanders still feel like they need to get an early down player to play that strong safety role and play in the box, they can certainly go out and do that. And my preferred option here is Rayshawn Jenkins, who is 220 pounds and is an excellent athlete. Last year for the Seattle Seahawks, 53 tackles, 0 interceptions, and 0 PBUs. So obviously not a whole lot of ball production there, but at that size and with his athletic profile, he fits what the Washington Commanders want in their starting strong safety. You take a look here at his relative athletic score when he was coming out. Now, obviously, these numbers are from 2017. We're currently in the year of our Lord, 2025, so maybe these numbers aren't exactly up to date, but you get my point here, guys, where he had a 9.36 relative athletic score because he ran a 4.51 40-yard dash time at his size at 220 pounds. So he's going to be somebody that brings some athleticism and some size and can play more of that true box safety type of role on early downs for this defense if you ask him to do that. And that's exactly what I think he would be doing here in Washington. He'd be playing that early down role where you're playing him in the box and then you take him off the field on second down and longs, on third down and mediums, on third down and longs in the 2-minute drill. And you put Will Harris out there as your other kind of deep field safety there. And I think that would be a really good setup, or at least a pretty decent setup for this team after losing Jeremy Chinn in free agency this year. So coming up here, we got more post-draft targets. We still got wide receivers and off-ball linebackers to talk about here. But before we get into those, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can go to chatsports.com/Daniels, pick up your brand new Jaden Daniels Commanders jersey today. Let's face it, guys, Daniels is going to be here for a while. So if you want a jersey that's going to remain relevant for probably over a decade at this point, and maybe forever, depending on how many Super Bowls and MVPs Jaden Daniels wins here in Washington, you can go to chatsports.com/Daniels and make an investment in a brand new Jaden Daniels jersey today. Another added bonus is if you use our link, chatsports.com/Daniels. It's down there in the comments and description of today's show, and you make a purchase. Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds here at the Commanders Report to help keep the lights on, help us pay rent, do all the different stuff that we need to do here at Chat Sports. It also helps improve our equipment and our graphics so that this can be as enjoyable of an experience for you guys as possible. So thank you guys so much for your support. And if you want that new jersey in your closet today, all you have to do is go to chatsports.com/Daniels and make a purchase. So now on to the wide receivers, because this is an interesting position group to me this year, guys, because you look at what the Commanders are dealing with right now, and you got Terry McLaurin at the 1. Then, Deebo Samuel is technically your number 2 wide receiver, but he's more of a chess piece type of guy. He's not necessarily somebody you line up at Z every single play and you say, all right, go beat your guy one-on-one and just cook him with your route running. That's not the type of player Deebo is. You're going to be moving people around there at the wide receiver position for the Washington Commanders this year. And you got Noah Brown as your number 3 receiver. Then behind him, you got guys like Luke McCaffrey, KJ Osborne, Jalen Lane, who they just drafted out of Virginia Tech. And, even though, Noah Brown showed some decent things last year in the time that he was playing for the Washington Commanders, I still think, there's some options out there that could be upgrades at this position alongside Terry McLaurin. And if they can add a legit number 2 receiver on the outside, I think that they probably should if you can get him for the right price. And, I look at 2 guys that are still available in the free agency market right now that I think could potentially help this football team out, and that's Keenan Allen and Amari Cooper. Now, Keenan Allen, a bigger wide receiver that made his living in the slot as a route-running technician for many years, I still believe that he is still more than capable of being a good receiver in this league. And obviously, he's never won a Super Bowl, and he's still available as a free agent. So if the Commanders gave him a call, I still feel like he would be very interested in playing for the Washington Commanders this year. You can line him up outside. You can line him up inside. Still a very good route runner. Still has very reliable hands. I think he'd be a really good fit to pair with both Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. And then you can kind of allow the other players in your wide receiver room, guys like Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, Noah Brown, really earn everything that they they get in this offense, and you really allow the best players to play in this group, and you really feel like you've got a group here at the wide receiver position that is worth the talents of the guy throwing them the football in Jaden Daniels. So I love Keenan Allen. I love his drive at this point in his NFL journey. He really wants to win, and I think that he would take less money to come play for Washington if they offered him a contract. So finally here, let's talk a little bit about some off-ball linebackers, because let's face it, Bobby Wagner's not going to be here forever. And Jordan McGee, Kai Madrano, these guys are more kind of smaller interior linebackers that are probably going to be more kind of rotational guys, pass coverage type of dudes. And they're also very young. So if you want to get somebody to add to the rotation here alongside Bobby Wagner and alongside Frankie Louvu and really solidify this group, there's still some really good off-ball linebackers still available. CJ Mosley probably wants to start, so maybe wouldn't come to Washington in a rotational role, but maybe Frankie Louvu can get his guy Shaq Thompson to come here. I think that would be an excellent third safety to add to the group. Kaiser White, kind of a blitzing linebacker type that's played for a number of teams, including the Arizona Cardinals, was a really good blitzer for them last year. Eric Kendricks is more of a pass coverage type of linebacker. He's a little bit decreased athletically at this point in his career, but he's still very instinctive. And then same thing with Quan Alexander, who's been known as a really good coverage linebacker in a rotational role his entire career. So these are some guys, if you're the Commanders and you want to upgrade that off-ball linebacker position, you can look into this offseason. So who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which non-quarterback would you like to see the Commanders bring in this offseason? Let me know down there in the comments section. Can't be a quarterback, obviously, but the Commanders don't need to bring in a quarterback, right? You got Jaden Daniels. You've got Marcus Mariota. You don't really need another quarterback in there. So just let me know, what other player would you like the Commanders to bring in this offseason? All right, guys, make sure you get down there and let me know who made it to the end of the show, because those are the real ones, all right? The people that watch to the end of the show, those people help out the YouTube algorithm the most. So I want you guys to identify yourselves down there in the comments section so that we can give you guys some love down there in the comments. Type those real ones in all caps to identify yourselves. I greatly appreciate all of your guys' support. And don't forget, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got more off-season coverage for your Washington Commanders coming all throughout the 2025 offseason. And until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders. All right, Joey, so let's put on a 5-minute shot clock here so people can get their questions in before the mailbag. How many questions do we have in right now?
We have 4 questions in right now.
We have 4 questions in. We'd like to get at least 7 or 8, somewhere around there. So we're going to put on, let's go 3-minute shot clock, actually.
I got to import it in, but I got it right here.
Sounds good. We're going to be putting on a shot clock here of 3 minutes, where you guys are going to have 3 minutes to get your questions into the mailbag today. All you have to do is use hashtag Commanders down there in the comment section along with your question, and we'll make sure to get it on the show today. So, Joey.
There we go. Boom.
Any names that stood out on the free agency and trade target list that I put together?
Yeah, I think CJ Mosley is an interesting name. You got to wonder how the fit's going to be with Washington. You know, a guy who still probably believes he's got a lot left in the tank. You don't know if he'd want to come in here and play a rotational role. But I still think, he could be a really interesting addition. Obviously, he had that neck injury last year, and so that's going to be something to look at, especially for a guy who's no spring chicken anymore. But at the same time, it's like he's been in this league a really long time. He'd be a wonderful depth piece, and he also wouldn't be that expensive either because of that neck injury, I don't think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And what about your opinion on the wide receiver position? Because right now, you've got McLaurin, who's awesome.
Yeah.
And then you got Debo, who's awesome, but he's not really like a true wide receiver almost. Like he's like an offensive weapon. He's like a chess piece. He's not really like a true line him up outside, go cook your guy on a route type of wide receiver. Yeah. So like, do you trust Noah Brown to play that role on the other side of Terry? I don't know if I do. I think he's fine, but like, is Keenan Allen better than him? Yes. I would probably say yes.
I would say so as well. Out of those two, I would agree with you. I would lean Keenan Allen over Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper's game is just so built on his ability to run perfect routes. And as he gets older and as he struggles with injuries more and more, that ability fades a little bit.
Yeah, he was really bad last year.
Yeah.
Man. He lost his hands last year. He had a lot of drops.
And so I think Keenan Allen's game is just built less on like the traits of a young wide receiver and more of just his ability to go out there, make good catches, use his size, use his aggression, use his frame to go out there and make plays. I think Keenan Allen would be a big step up from Noah Brown.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys, you got less than a minute to go here. Do we add any more questions?
We added one more question. I need 3 more.
We need 3 more questions here, guys. If you got a question about the Commanders heading into the 2025 season, don't be shy. Get #Commanders down there in the chat to get your question on the show for free today.
We also, honestly, let me read them. We've got a little bit of, okay, that's good. Let's see. I just don't want any repeats. Yeah, we've got 2 Trey Hendrickson questions, and so we can just hit those back to back. So honestly, maybe 4 more questions.
All right.
There's another one from SYN. There we go. Good question.
Keep them coming. We got 10 seconds. We need 3 more questions, guys.
We can add a couple more minutes onto this. We can
add 2 minutes to this.
Yeah, we'll add 2 minutes, and then I can throw up that photo.
And then put
of
on the weigh-in for #Commanders so they
gotcha.
know what to do.
There we go.
So we're going to add 2 more minutes here, guys. We'd like to get 3 more questions for the mailbag. So if you got a question about Jaden Daniels heading into his 2nd year, if you got a question about the draft class, if you got a question about one of the UDFAs that they signed, don't be shy. Get those questions in there, and you can get on the show for free today. All you have to do is go #Commanders down there in the live chat. We still got 200 people watching live, man. So we got 200 people. All we need is 3 people to put a question in.
And hey, NFL guy, great question. Don't say #who's. Say #Commanders, and then ask who's your favorite player. That's what we're looking for.
Yes, #Commanders, then ask your question. Hey, we got our first super chat of the day, and it's John Masood coming in with a $10 super chat. John, we'll put you up on screen here momentarily. Again, guys, while we show John's super chat, get your questions in. We got a little bit over a minute to go here on the shot clock. Hog Mafia member John Masood says, "Hail to the Redskins, Jack, Cassie, Joey." Joey, getting some love today.
There we go. Finally, last time he didn't.
Usually it's just Jack and Cassie both. Usually you don't get the love there, Joey, but today Joey gets on the super.
Hey, and John showed me some love this past Saturday on the main NFL draft broadcast.
Yeah,
so
that was
John,
a lot of
I
fun.
appreciate you.
Yeah, good stuff there, John.
We missed each other this year on the NFL draft broadcast. I was with Moose. I was with Tom.
Yeah, I was with Tom. Me too. I was with Tom and Moose. Like you were on like we just never linked up in that way during the weekend. So, how we doing on questions here? 30 seconds out. Did we get a couple more?
I think we got a couple more. I think we're good to go.
All right, we're good to go, but we'll give you guys the final 20 seconds to get your questions in, and then we'll get into the mailbag here, and then we'll finish up today's show. So thank you guys so much for making it to this point in the show, but we got 10 seconds left until we get into the mailbag. Excuse me. And I'm looking forward to it, Joey. It's my favorite segment that we do every single week. So without further ado, let's get into it right now. It is this week's Commanders Report mailbag. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and I say this every time we do a mailbag, but this really is my favorite segment that we get to do every single week on this channel, because instead of me telling you guys or me guessing what you want me to talk about, you guys come to me with your questions directly, and we get to have that two-way conversation at least once a week. So before we get into the content and the questions today, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because our goal is to join the most interactive Commanders community on YouTube. We put out daily community posts on the community tab on this channel. We go live every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time during the off season, and as well as every single game day once we get to the season. It's an absolute blast on this channel, guys. So if you've just joined us and you haven't experienced our channel that much, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Try us out for a week. I promise you won't regret it. So if you want daily, free, interactive Commanders content here on YouTube, click that subscribe button if you haven't already. First one coming in from my man JG says, how many years will Terry get on his extension? I expect it to be 3 years, JG, so that would make him a Commander for at least the next 4 years. All right, so that would take him until his age 34 season. And I think that he's absolutely deserving of that. All right, I think that he can still play at a high level to that point. And, he keeps his body in tip-top physical shape. So I don't really have any concerns that Terry's going to still be worth his contract towards the end of his next contract there. And honestly, by the time he gets to the end of that contract, he might not even be a top 10 paid receiver in the league anymore. So I think that I would be perfectly willing to pay him anywhere between $30 and $33 million per season. I think he's worth that. He's a do-it-all alpha-type receiver, top 10 receiver in the game as far as I'm concerned, and I think he deserves to be paid as such. Then we got one from Alvin here. Says, do we add who do we add in kicker room for competition? Listen, man, I thought that they were going to just bring in Matt Gay and then keep Zane Gonzalez and have those two duke it out. The fact that you bring in Matt Gay at $4.25 million on a one-year deal, he's going to be the starter. So honestly, I don't even know if there's going to be much competition. They'll bring in another kicker, but I don't really expect that kicker to really have a chance versus somebody that they're paying $4.25 million to this year. Matt Gay is going to be the kicker. Got one from Eugene. He says, how much is Jaden Daniels going to get when his rookie deal is up? That will tell you how much others will get. Listen, man, it's up to 60 right now with Dak Prescott, and we're still, at least 2 years away, 2 off seasons away from the Commanders even being eligible to give Jaden Daniels an extension. At that point, I think we're probably talking somewhere around $65, $66 million per year, man. And that's just going to be the going rate, especially if he's won an MVP at that point, especially if he's won a Super Bowl at that point. He's going to want to be the highest paid quarterback in football. And if I'm the Washington Commanders, if he has definitely solidified himself as this team's franchise QB, and you can make an argument he's already done that, leading this team to an NFC Championship game in just his rookie season, the first opportunity that I get to give him that contract extension, I'm paying top market value, and I'm walking away happy with that. I'm not going to let this thing drag on and end up having to pay $68, $69, $70 million. Whenever that deadline's up, whatever the market rate is, I'm paying it, and I'm paying it happily. Let me know down there in the comment section, guys, how much would you pay Jaden Daniels on his next deal? Would you pay $70 million if that was the price tag that he asked for? Let me know what you guys think down there in comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that YouTube ad break is playing, go down there in the comment section and let me know how much you'd be willing to pay for Jaden Daniels and what point it's too much. Got one from Robert Briggles. It says, if Trey Hendrickson is too far of a reach for Adam Peters, which other edges in this league would be a realistic chance of trading for without spending too much? I would say a couple of trade targets at the edge position, Robert. And by the way, really good question. I would say keep your eye on Odafe Oweh from the Baltimore Ravens. Had 10 sacks last year. They did address the edge position in the draft, and his name has been connected to some trade rumors. So, going from Baltimore to Washington, not a far drive, all these different things. I honestly don't think he'd be that expensive either. Maybe a future mid-round draft pick, something like that. And he's kind of perfect for what the Commanders need. They need like a designated pass rush kind of guy. They already have bigger bodies that can set the edge like Dorrance Armstrong and Cleveland Ferrell for early down work. They really just need somebody that can win one-on-one on third down situations. So Odafe Oweh, somebody to keep your eye on. Tyree Wilson, Former top 5 pick for the Las Vegas Raiders, another one to keep your eye on. They brought back Malcolm Kuntz this year in free agency. Obviously, they have Max Crosby. Could they be willing to let go of Tyree Wilson? There's been some rumblings about that. But then in free agency, there's some other options as well. Zadarius Smith had a pretty decent season last year. He's still available and wants to try and win a Super Bowl. Von Miller is still kicking around out there. He can be a designated pass rusher for you still, even in his old age. And, Matthew Judon's still out there. So maybe not the best options in the world are out there, but hey, Odafe Owe, Von Miller, Zadarius Smith, I'd be fine with any of those options. Then we got one from SYN. Excuse me. He says, do you see Medrano making the team? I think he's got a chance. He's very undersized, but he is an athletic freak. And he's somebody that you're hoping can probably develop into a coverage linebacker, because with the way he moves, man, he could do some cool stuff if he develops. Now, it's a difficult position, and his tape isn't really all that good, if I'm being completely honest with you. But he moves fast for a linebacker, severely undersized, so probably never a 3-down player. But we'll have to see how he develops. And it's worth noting that this team drafted another kind of undersized athletic linebacker last year in Jordan McGee out of Temple, who they do expect to take another step forward this year. So we'll kind of see how these rookies and second-year players kind of develop in the early stages of their career. But right now, the Commanders are just taking a bunch of dart throws at a lot of athletic kind of guys and hoping one of them sticks to the wall. Before we get into the rest of the questions here, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already, if you are a real one. The real ones know clicking that thumbs up icon, it boosts the YouTube algorithm, it helps out the channel, and it gets as many eyes on this video as possible. So we greatly appreciate everyone that likes the video. Then we got one from Greg. He says, how good do you think our defense will be this coming year? Listen, Greg, I think it's going to be improved, okay? And I know a lot of people right now are looking at the edge rusher room, and we talked about some of the ways that they could still address that. But last year, they weren't really allowed to play the style of defense that they want to play because the cornerback room was so bad. They had to play so much off coverage. They had to play, so conservatively because Benjamin St-Juste, Emmanuel Forbes, Michael Davis, they were all dog shit, all right? They were terrible. And you look at Mike Sainristil, he was really the saving grace of this unit last year. And then you bring in Marshawn Lattimore, who was dealing with an injury, and then even when he was playing, wasn't really playing all that well. So, this offseason, you do bring back Marshawn Lattimore. You do have Mike Sainristil still. But now you add Jonathan Jones, who can play inside or outside as a very good swing type of corner to be in the rotation, and then you draft a really good outside corner in Trey Amos to be a starter right away. All right, now maybe Amos is going to be behind Jonathan Jones on the initial depth chart, but I can almost guarantee you guys, he's going to be the week 1 starter. He's awesome, man. He plays with great technique, both in zone and in man. Not the quickest feet in the world, but he's got adequate long speed, oily hips, plays with great technique and eye discipline. I think he's going to be an awesome player alongside Marshawn Lattimore. And with Lattimore fully healthy now, hopefully we get to see, the dominant press man corner that we've seen in New Orleans for all these years. And that also, by the way, allows Mike Sainristil to play where he's most suited, which is in the slot. He's not the fastest player, but he's very shifty and very instinctual and very tough. And that just wraps up the nickel cornerback position. That just describes the nickel cornerback position in a Dan Quinn defense to a T. So I love the secondary this year, specifically the cornerback position for the Washington Commanders. They've taken something that was arguably this team's biggest weakness last year and turned it into, honestly, maybe this defense's biggest strength. And then you got Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. with all these stunts and loops and games. Like, even though they don't have a legit number 1 edge rusher, they're still going to be able to generate pressure with Frankie Louvu and Bobby Wagner and all these different guys that they've got on this defense. So honestly, Greg, I feel pretty optimistic that this defense is going to take another step in the right direction this year. Then we got one from JP6, says, who will surprise this year? Good question, JP6. I'm going to say Jerzon Newton, defensive tackle, second-year player. Didn't get much of an offseason last year because he had identical procedures done on both of his feet. So he kind of came in late was on a moving train, showed some good things last year as a pass rusher, but really didn't get it going. This year he gets a full offseason, and I think with his athleticism and his ability to win one-on-one and get to the quarterback from the interior, he's going to be a menace this year, man. Watch out for Johnny Newton, Jerzon Newton, whatever you want to call him. I loved him coming out of Illinois, and I think after a full offseason, really acclimating himself to this defense and to this team, he's going to be an awesome player on this defense. Got one from TWD Fan Comic. He says, which positions are going to be the most lacking in the future due to age and retirement concerns? Sorry if this is a dumb question. I'm new to fine details, not just watching football. I appreciate the question there, Fan Comic. And yeah, this is actually a really good question because this is something you got to keep in mind. This is a part of team building, knowing which players are towards the end of their career, and then you got to have contingency plans for when they retire in future seasons. And the guys that are really probably the most probably the most in danger of this being their final season is Bobby Wagner, the linebacker, Austin Eckler, the running back, and Zach Ertz, the tight end. Those three guys could all easily be in the final years of their respective careers. And right now, what is your contingency plans at those positions in future seasons? Right now, you got like Jordan McGee, who you drafted in the mid-rounds last year out of Temple at linebacker. Then you have Ben Sinnott, who you drafted in the early rounds out of Kansas State last year. And then at running back, you got Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, who you drafted in the late rounds this year. So hopefully all those young players make the proper steps in their development. And if they don't, the Commanders are going to address them in future off seasons, right? They're going to get new free agents. They're going to draft new players early on in the NFL draft to make sure that whenever these guys do retire, they're going to have good players at these positions in future seasons. So good question there, Fan Comic. Then we got another one from Alvin. Says, will the UDFA from Jackson State make the team? I think he's got a chance, man. So he's talking about Robert McDaniel here. And he is everywhere on the football field, guys. Like, he played a lot of slot corner for Jackson State, and he blitzed off the edge a lot, and he was really freaking good at it. He's a good run defender. He brings some really good size at 211 pounds, and he can even play outside corner. He's got the speed to do that. So I think, you look at a guy like Robert McDaniel, played for Jackson State, was a superstar player at that level of college football. You can put him anywhere you want. He's big enough to play at box safety. Who knows? Maybe he's your day one starting box safety for this team. He can play in the slot. So if Samerstill gets injured and, Jonathan Jones is playing on the outside, he's more than capable of playing in the slot. If you want to put him at edge rusher on third downs, he's plenty experienced to do that. He had over 130 edge rusher snaps last year at 211 pounds. So this guy's versatile as hell. He plays the game the right way. He plays with his hair on fire. And, in a game like football where injuries happen all the time, versatility is such an important thing to have, especially if you have athleticism to pair with it. So I think this kid's got a chance to make the final team. I'm excited to see what he does in the offseason program. And who knows what could happen this year, guys. Who's your guy? Let me know down there in the comments section. Which UDFA has the best chance to make the roster this year? Is it that offensive lineman from NC State they paid a good contract to? Could it be Ja'Cory Brooks, receiver out of Louisville? Could it be Robert McDaniel, the Jackson State defensive back? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. For me, McDaniel definitely has a good chance to make the team. All right, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for all the questions. Some really, really good questions this week. Until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders. All right.
Had a little trouble landing the plane there.
Yes, I did. But, Joey, look at the chat. Joey, we are going to be live for an extra 15 minutes. Because the legend himself.
Wow. Did that just come in?
Yes, it just came in.
Wow.
All right, we're going to be here for an extra 15 minutes because the legend himself, IQ Barbecue, has come in with a $100 super chat. And our software's still loading here, IQ.
Still loading, IQ. Don't worry.
But we will be live for an extra 15 minutes. If you guys got some questions down there, we'll talk some more Commanders football because this one's rolling in from IQ. Bye. IQ bag! IQ, 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 IQ. Let's go! All right. 15 more minutes, Joey. Talking some more Commanders football.
Let's talk a little bit of draft. We haven't gotten to do that yet. We got the draft class right here. Josh Connolly Jr. in the first, Trey Amos in the second, Jalen Lane, Kay Madrano, and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. Which of those guys, and outside of Trey Amos, the final three selections, which one are you most excited for?
I'm excited for Ja'Cory, man. Like, he didn't play really last year. He played in one game, and then he had an eligibility kind of snafu. So he didn't play last year, really. Yeah. And then he goes to the Shrine Bowl, and he was arguably the best player at the Shrine Bowl, man. Like, he is a really good running back, lots of speed, lots of explosiveness, can catch the ball out of the backfield too. Now, he's a little bit undersized, and the vision can be hit or miss. There is a little bit of a reason why he went in round 7. But I think that he's got some big-time upside. And because like we talked about, you got to look ahead to the future. Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler are free agents next year. And, like, do you really want to sign those guys to another contract? I don't know if the answer to that question is yes. If Ja'Cory becomes a good player this year, let's say Austin gets hurt again and Ja'Cory gets brought in as the number 2 running back option, he balls out, I'm looking at next year saying, hey, this guy's a great fit for what we want to do here because we're in shotgun a lot, so you don't really need like a big bruising back, in my opinion. Your primary can easily be somebody that's lighter like Ja'Cory is. If he's somebody that I think he's capable of becoming, 7th-round pick is an absolute steal for Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt.
I don't know about you, but I would be pretty surprised if Austin Eckler gets extended.
Me too. I would be surprised about B-Rob.
Yeah.
Like B-Rob
sucks.
Which sucks because we love B-Rob here. We have a B-Rob chant for every time he gets a touchdown.
It's my favorite chant too.
It's my favorite chant. But let's face it, man. Like, he's not very dynamic. And maybe you don't need dynamic, right? Maybe they keep him around as a number 2 running back or even as a number 1 in future seasons. Who knows? I don't think he's going to get extended this offseason. I think this will be very much a prove-it kind of year for him. But if he kind of falls by the wayside, I could see a guy like Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt come up now and be a pretty decent player for this team.
Let's talk draft, but let's keep it inside the NFC East. Let's talk about what the Eagles, Giants, and Cowboys were able to do. Where do you want to start?
IQ Barbecue says Ja'Cory. Come on, Joey. Yeah, you tell him, IQ. What a Ja'Cory. What are we doing, Joey? Like, what was your brain even telling yourself when you said Ja'Cory?
That's on me.
That is on Joey.
I was just I had a lot of names to read. Cut me some slack, IQ.
Eugene says, do we trade Duron Payne for a pick next year? No. I think that, Joey, when we looked at this defense without Duron Payne last year, the run defense was abysmal.
It was atrocious.
By the way, Buffalo Bills signing Elijah Moore to a 1-year deal. So interesting signing for them. Good route runner. But, you look at Duron Payne. I think that he's a really good run defender, and he does a lot of the dirty work, Joey. A lot of people say, he's not very productive as a pass rusher, which is true, but that's because he's eating all the double teams.
Yes.
And he's doing such a good job of that, and he was so valuable to this team last year. When he was off the field, this is the worst run defense in the National Football League. It was that bad, and then when he was on the field, they were pretty decent.
Yeah.
So, like, that one player is such a big player for you, and they didn't address it in the draft. If they would have addressed it in the draft with like a high draft pick, I would have been like, yeah, maybe. But now I'm thinking that Duron Payne's their dude at nose tackle.
Yeah, I think he's just such a classic Dan Quinn nose tackle. He's perfect for what Dan Quinn needs. He's tough. He does everything you need him to do, does all the dirty work like you said. He just doesn't get enough credit for the things he actually does. And that's just kind of the go at for that kind of position.
Yeah.
They rarely do get credit for all they're able to do and all they open up for everybody behind them. And it's no different with Duron Payne. And we saw it this past season. Anytime he was out of the lineup, the run defense really took a big hit.
Just look at the NFC Championship game when Saquon put his you-know-what down our throats all game long.
First play from scrimmage.
Oh, yeah, first play from scrimmage. How'd that work out for us? Not too great. Samuel Otta says, what do you guys think about Ja'Cory Brooks? Do you think he can make the roster? Listen, man, he had some very impressive catches last year. He was really the only guy, in my opinion, that consistently made some nice, tough catches for Tyler Shuck on his film at Louisville last year. He's not a burner, and he doesn't get open like a crap ton, but I don't know, man, nice hands receiver, can make a nice catch. Alabama, level prospect coming out of high school. Who knows, man? We'll see how he does. I gave it an A+ as a UDFA signing, so I think that he's a really good player, and we'll see what he does. I'll say that. JG says, could Jalen Lane eventually take Debo's place as a gadget wide receiver? Yeah, they're different players, Joey. Debo's obviously big, and he's a great run blocker. Jalen Lane is tiny he's a slot-only receiver with some good speed. So they're different types of gadget receivers, but Lane's really good after the catch, and he's really good with the ball in his hands in space like Debo is. So even though they're different sizes and different players, Debo's not going to be here forever. He's going to be a free agent again next offseason. And if Lane really shows out, they might be more comfortable letting go of Debo next offseason.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is what ends up happening. I think Jalen Lane's going to be an interesting little bit of a look. I would not be surprised if this year they treated it as, almost like a redshirt freshman year for Jalen Lane. And you show him what he could be in Cliff Kingsbury's offense with Debo Samuel. And then if they believe they've seen enough throughout the season, him going in from time to time, they believe that they can do that with him moving forward at a much cheaper rate because he'll be a rookie, then I wouldn't be surprised to see them make that move next offseason.
Yeah, I agree, and then there's also the question, where does this leave us with Luke McCaffrey? Because a fourth-round pick is not necessarily an early pick, but it's not late either. No. It's mid-round, so you're expecting at least something out of Jalen Lane. And obviously took Luke McCaffrey last year around that point last year as well, and he showed some really good things, particularly on special teams as a kick return man. I think he was one of the best kick return mans in the league last year, actually, but didn't show a whole lot as a receiver. So, and by the way, I expected that based on his film. I had a round 6 grade on Luke McCaffrey as a receiver. So it's going to be interesting to see. And what I think that they're doing here, Joey, is that they're kind of similar players, Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey, and they're all right, you guys are going to battle for, whoever this young next piece of our offense is going to be. Let the best man win. And, we'll see what happens with Debo this year if he earns another contract here in Washington. And then Noah Brown is another guy that's, kind of getting lost in the shuffle here, but they really like Noah Brown. They feel like he's a legit starter in this league, and they feel like he had a good connection with Jaden Daniels last year.
Yeah, which kind of surprises me. I guess we didn't get to see a ton of Noah because he was in and out of the lineup with injury throughout the entirety of the season. I like Noah Brown. I like the signing a lot more at the time and like it a little bit less now. I think it was a good signing at the time for the value that you were getting. He was obviously there. He's a free agent, not that expensive. I would be surprised if Noah Brown's going to be a long-term Commander. Obviously, he's going to be on the roster this next year because he's probably, like we were talking about earlier, the second best just pure wide receiver of go run a route, go get open.
Yeah.
But still, I just don't know how much of a future I see of Noah Brown with this Commanders offense.
Yeah, and that's why I would love for them to go out and get a Keenan Allen, somebody that, has some versatility to play inside or out, so you can play Debo at a variety of different kind of alignments as well. Tough player, veteran player that can help some of these younger guys develop a little bit more. Got a question from Rob, says, what are the chances Gabriel Taylor makes the final roster? I will say very, very slim. First of all, he doesn't even have a roster spot right now because he's going to get a rookie camp invite.
Yeah.
And there's definitely reason to believe that the reason why he got that invite was because he's Sean Taylor's brother. And the Commanders wanted to give him a chance. But he's undersized, and he only played strong safety at Rice. So, he's going to have to completely change his position to deep safety or nickel corner for him to even have a shot this year. And then the fact that, the Commanders have already signed 10 UDFAs, and he's not one of them, just puts him even more at a disadvantage, even if he does make the 90-man roster heading into the offseason, Joey.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a cooler, I think the reason people talk about it a lot is because it's a cool story and people want
Yeah,
it
it's
to
a
be,
really cool story, man. I'm glad that they're doing this, by the way.
And it would be awesome if you made a roster.
Yeah.
But you got to look at it legitimately and non-bias. There's a very, very small, slim to none chance that he's got to make a roster, especially for a guy who they didn't even feel was good enough to sign as an undrafted free agent, literally just an invite to rookie minicamp. So.
Yep, and then Jake says, will Jones and Harris have to compete for their jobs with Amos? Harris, not so much. Right now, Harris is like a true safety. He played corner a lot at New Orleans, but the Commanders are bringing him in as a safety. So I don't know if his job is threatened by Amos, but Jones definitely is.
I agree.
And I would say, week one, I would be a little shocked if Trey Amos is not starting week one. And I think that'd be malpractice because Jonathan Jones did not have a good season last year, unfortunately. And that was why I was advocating for this team to draft or trade for another corner during the NFL draft. And why I was so happy they took Amos.
Yeah.
Because to me, he deserved to go in round one. He was that good of a player.
I thought he was better than Maxwell Harrison.
I would have been, I thought his ceiling was Green Bay at 23. And I would have been, if they would have taken him at 23, I would have said, Green Bay, good pick. I like the player. Maybe a little bit early, but I like the player. He falls all the way to 61. And that's a day one starter level player who's got great technique. You don't have to coach him up all that much. He's ready to go out of the package. And you pair him up with Marshawn Lattimore that when he's healthy has shown to be one of the best press man corners and, number one receiver erasers in the game. I mean, I love it. Long arms, physical. He can also play in press coverage.
He's so smooth, too.
So smooth.
His footwork is unbelievable.
So graceful. And then you got Jack Jones, who, maybe don't like him as much as a starter, but if Lattimore gets hurt again, or if Samerstill goes down, Jones can play inside or out. He's played both.
Great depth piece.
Great depth piece. And, last year, that was the exact opposite of this cornerback room, where there was no depth at all. You had Benjamin St. Toast.
He might have been CB1, Jones, on last year's roster almost.
I still think Samerstill.
Man, yeah. Maybe.
But even Samerstill's not even like a true outside corner. He's a nickel.
Yeah.
And that's why they drafted him. And which is why, by the way, they drafted Amos where they did, because it allows them to put Mikey back where he's best. And I'm excited for him, man. I'm excited for Mike Samerstill. I think that him playing in the slot is exactly what this team needs. Trey Amos is going to be great on the outside. I truly believe Lattimore is going to be just fine. He's going to be healthy this year. We'll see. He's never healthy, so maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. But even in that case, like we talked about, you got Jonathan Jones, who's perfectly fine. So I think that I'm really excited for the secondary this year, guys. I really am.
Jack, who else, because we got about a minute and a half left, so we don't need to take too long on this. Who do you think in the NFC East had the best draft?
It's a good question. I like the Giants draft class. I do. Depending on how you feel about Jackson Dart is kind of how you feel about the Giants grade in general. Because you get Marcus Bowe at a huge discount. Cam Scatterbo on day 3. Of course, Abdul Carter. So what's cool about this is they get Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker in round 1. And then I love Darius Alexander too. So the first few picks for the Giants knocked them out of the park. Cowboys was a little weird. You don't get a receiver, so definitely not them. I thought the Eagles had a decent draft this year as well. They once again restocked on trench players, especially late in the draft. But I'll probably give it to. But I like the Commanders, man. I like what they did with their early round selections. I would probably give the best overall class to New York because they have more good draft picks than the Commanders do.
And that's just what happens when you pick number 2 overall.
Yeah, if you're asking me which team got the most with the picks that they had, I'd probably say Commanders. But in terms of just the sheer amount of good players that were taken, I think the Giants probably got the most.
Yeah.
So listen, man, I was happy with what they got. I'm excited to see if they can still land Trey Hendrickson. I'm excited to see if they do bring in Zadarius Smith or, say, Matthew Judon or Von Miller. It would be so much fun if they brought in Von Miller. But it's going to be interesting, man. It really is. All right, thank you guys so much for making it to the end. IQ, love you, man. You bought us 15 extra minutes today. So shout out to IQ. Everyone spam those IQs in the chat to say thank you for the extra 15 minutes. You guys are the absolute best. We'll see you guys next week. And until then, hail to the Commanders.